Hey, welcome back. Today we will tell you about the scandals involving female law enforcement officers engaging in inappropriate relationships with teenage boys. This has shocked communities across the United States. These cases highlight the abuse of power and the devastating consequences that arise when individuals in positions of authority betray the trust placed in them. In June 2019, Shauna Bishop, formerly the sheriff of Sacramento County in California, was sentenced for her involvement in an incident with another teenage boy. She turned herself over after the boy's parents reported him to the police in their hometown of Fulford, California. Authorities launched a thorough investigation and issued resolute warrants following her arrest last May. The bishop's actions were not related to her work as deputy, but rather to what had occurred when she left that job due to being sued by someone. In the case of Shauna Bishop, a former Sacramento County Sheriff's deputy, her once promising career in law enforcement came to an abrupt end. Bishop's sentencing for her crimes sent shockwaves through the community, leaving many questioning how someone in a position of authority could betray the trust placed in them. The consequences she faced were severe, reflecting the gravity of her actions. She faced multiple charges related to her unlawful relationship with the teenager. She was charged with 5 counts: 1 count of unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor, 1 count of child molestation, and 3 counts of oral copulation with a minor. However, in July 2019, she pleaded guilty to 1 count of unlawful sexual intercourse. The other 4 charges she was facing were dismissed. This shocking revelation left the community in disbelief and raised questions about the integrity of those in positions of power. The consequences of Shauna Bishop's actions came crashing down on her as she faced the sentencing for her crimes on a fateful day. She was sentenced to 1 year in county jail. A period of that would serve as a reminder of the gravity of her actions. Additionally, she was placed on 5 years of probation and required to register as a sex offender, a label that would follow her for the rest of her life. The impact of this designation on her personal and professional life cannot be overstated. Bishop was ordered to serve 180 days on work projects once she completed her jail sentence. The court also imposed several restrictions on Bishop's future conduct. She was prohibited from having any contact with the teenage boy or his family. Additionally, she was forbidden from consuming alcohol or using pornography for the next 5 years. The court made it clear that any violation of these orders would result in 3 years of imprisonment. The scandals involving female law enforcement officers engaging in inappropriate relationships with teenage boys have exposed a dark underbelly within the justice system. These cases highlight the abuse of power and the devastating consequences that arise when individuals in positions of authority betray the trust placed in them. The case of Delia Ruiz, a former police officer with the Friona Police Department, highlights the disturbing reality of deceit and manipulation involving 2 teenage boys. Ruiz, using her position of authority, targeted and groomed these unsuspecting boys through explicit messages, slowly manipulating them into a dangerous and illicit relationship. The first victim, a 16-year-old boy, was targeted in November 2020. What began as innocent conversations quickly escalated into something much more sinister. Ruiz's actions were calculated and manipulative, exploiting the vulnerabilities and insecurities of the teenage boys. She used her knowledge of their struggles to gain their trust and showered them with attention and affection. Through a series of explicit and sexual messages, she escalated the grooming process, enticing them further into her web of manipulation. The boys, naive and impressionable, fell victim to Ruiz's charms without realizing the dangerous path they were being led down. Ruiz didn't stop with just 1 victim. She set her sights on a second teenage boy, whom she met through her first victim using social media platforms, preying on his desire for attention and validation. In conclusion, the case of Delia Ruiz exposes the disturbing truth of deceit and manipulation involving 2 teenage boys. Ruiz, a former police officer, abused her position of authority to exploit vulnerable teenagers for her gratification. An investigation was launched in October 2021. Ruiz was arrested and subsequently fired from the police force. Her actions shattered the trust in the department and left the community grappling with the betrayal of someone they once relied on for protection. The case of Imari Waller, a former Arizona Department of Juvenile Corrections officer, has shocked the community and brought to light the consequences of illicit relationships. Waller now faces possible charges of unlawful sexual conduct after her inappropriate relationship with an 18-year-old former inmate was uncovered. The investigation started when a diligent youth corrections officer discovered explicit messages between Waller and the former inmate, indicating a relationship. The investigation into Imari Waller's illicit relationship with an 18-year-old former inmate unfolded with shocking revelations. The discovery of explicit messages sent shockwaves through the Arizona Department of Juvenile Corrections, as it was a clear violation of the law. Under Arizona statutes, it is illegal for anyone employed by the department to engage in any sexual act with an offender under their supervision. The evidence against Waller continued to mount as a special investigator interviewed the former inmate, who confessed to engaging in sexual intercourse with Waller. In a parole search of the man's room, explicit material of nude photos and videos of Waller was found on his cell phone, further solidifying the nature of their relationship. In conclusion, the case of Imari Waller highlights the dire consequences of engaging in illicit relationships, particularly when one holds a position of authority and responsibility. The swift action taken by the authorities in investigating and prosecuting Waller demonstrates their commitment to upholding justice and ensuring the safety of the community. The case of Imari Waller, a former corrections officer, has brought to light a web of deceit, betrayal, and abuse of power within the justice system. Waller's actions, which included engaging in a forbidden relationship with a former inmate and committing various illegal acts, have severe consequences, both professionally and legally. As the legal system holds her accountable, Waller's once promising career has come. Apart from the ethical implications, Waller's actions have also resulted in serious legal charges. The arrest and subsequent charges marked a turning point in her, as her once promising career as a corrections officer came crashing down. The charges against her include unlawful sexual conduct with a person in custody, conveying contraband in a juvenile facility, and tampering with physical evidence. Each of these charges carries its own set of penalties and potential prison time. Unlawful sexual conduct with a person in custody is a serious offense that could potentially lead to significant prison time. The exact length of the sentence would depend on various factors, including the specific circumstances of the case and any aggravating factors. The case of Imari Waller highlights the devastating consequences of crossing the line and engaging in a forbidden relationship within the justice system. Her actions have not only tarnished her reputation, but have also led to severe legal charges that may result in prison time and potential registration as a sex offender. Meetings, covert conversations, and risky exchanges that unfolded within the confines of the prison walls for 5 months from late 2019 until April of the following year showcased a forbidden romance between a corrective services officer, Melissa Goodwin, and an inmate, Corey London. Despite their roles within the prison system, Goodwin and London managed to keep their relationship hidden through a series of covert methods. Their forbidden romance was fueled by their determination to keep their connection alive, despite the risks involved. Goodwin and London devised various covert methods of communication to ensure their conversations remained undetected. Phone calls were facilitated through a third party, allowing them to maintain secrecy. They also took advantage of the prison intercom system, engaging in secret exchanges that only they could decipher. But perhaps the most audacious method they employed was using London's mother as an intermediary. Goodwin's name was saved in her phone as Corey GF, allowing them to pass messages discreetly. These covert methods highlighted the depth of their feelings and the lengths they were willing to go to be together. Their secret romance, although thrilling, was not destined to remain hidden forever. The walls of their clandestine world began to crumble, exposing the illicit affair and leading to severe consequences. Goodwin was charged with engaging in a relationship with an inmate, a serious breach of professional conduct. After being charged with engaging in a relationship with an inmate, Goodwin found herself navigating the complex world of the justice system as the case unfolded. Goodwin stood before the court, her once blonde locks now dyed brown, a visual representation of the transformation her life had undergone. The weight of her actions was evident as she looked up at the sky, tears streaming down her face, awaiting her fate, having pleaded guilty to the charge. Goodwin awaited her sentencing with bated breath. The court considered the gravity of her offense, the breach of trust, and the potential harm caused by her actions. The judge, in delivering the sentence, acknowledged the dangers inherent in such relationships within the prison system. Despite the possibility of facing jail time, Goodwin received a sentence that allowed her to serve in the community in a nutshell in 2021. She managed to escape incarceration by confessing to a charge related to her involvement with the inmate. As a part of her punishment, she received a 12-month community corrections order and was obligated to fulfill 100 hours of community service. This outcome was met with mixed reactions, as some questioned the leniency of the sentence, while others believed it was a fair resolution. Next, I'll go down to England for the shocking case of Jordan Traynor, a prison officer who engaged in inappropriate relationships with teenage male inmates at the Wetherby Young Offender Institution. A facility designed for rehabilitation and discipline became the backdrop for a scandalous incident that eroded the trust placed in authority figures. Jordan Traynor, a 25-year-old female prison officer, was involved in inappropriate relationships with teenage male inmates, blurring the boundaries between her role as a guardian and their vulnerable status as prisoners. The series of events unfolded in autumn 2019, when Traynor discovered that one of the inmates possessed a contraband mobile phone. Seizing the opportunity, she engaged in a flirtatious relationship with the young offender, leading to the exchange of explicit messages. Providing further details, the gravity of Traynor's actions cannot be downplayed. In her role as a prison officer, she wielded power and authority over vulnerable young inmates who needed guidance. By participating in inappropriate relationships with them, Traynor not only breached the trust bestowed upon her as a guardian, but also took advantage of the vulnerability of these inmates. Such a breach of trust is a serious offense that demands appropriate punishment to convey a resounding message that such behavior will not be tolerated. The Traynor's actions extended beyond emotional involvement. Exploiting her position, she utilized it to smuggle contraband into the institution, introducing potentially prohibited items. The power dynamics at play in the case of George Traynor, a prison officer who exploited her authority to satisfy her desires, were deeply disturbing. Through explicit messages, photographs, and physical contact, Traynor engaged in improper relationships with young offenders under her supervision. This betrayal of the responsibilities entrusted to her as a prison officer is a shocking violation of the duty of care she had towards these vulnerable individuals. During the searches conducted in the cells of the young offenders, evidence of Traynor's misconduct began to surface. Both inmates were found to have the prison officer's mobile number, and one of them had retained explicit photographs. The second inmate was found to possess 3 mobile phones, which were examined. These findings led to Traynor's suspension from her position as a prison officer. The consequences of Traynor's actions continued to unfold during the court proceedings. Mr. Jonathan Sharp, the prosecutor, revealed that rumors of Traynor's misconduct were prevalent at the Young Offenders Institution. This suggests that there may have been knowledge or suspicions among staff and inmates regarding her inappropriate behavior. Such a breach of trust and abuse, George Traynor's misconduct as a prison officer, highlights the deeply disturbing power dynamics at play within the correctional system. Her exploitation of authority to satisfy her desires through explicit messages, photographs, and physical contact is a shocking betrayal of the responsibilities entrusted to her. The consequences of her actions have been far-reaching, leading to her suspension and subsequent criminal charges. The case of the Traynor's misconduct and subsequent sentencing to 18 months in jail serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of abusing one's position of authority. The judge's decision to hand down a custodial sentence sends a strong message to others in positions of power that the justice system will not tolerate the exploitation of vulnerable individuals and the betrayal of trust placed in those tasked with their care. Next, the actions of Toryland Messer, a law enforcement agent, have sparked a thorough investigation into her alleged misconduct. Law enforcement agencies recognized the gravity of the situation and took the allegations seriously, understanding the need for justice to be served. The investigation aimed to uncover the truth and hold Messer accountable for her actions. During the investigation, Messer reportedly confessed to the relationship and provided shocking details of her encounters with the teenager. Her admission of guilt was a significant breakthrough in the case, providing the evidence needed to move forward with charges against her. This confession served as a moment of validation for the victim and their family, who had been devastated by the betrayal of trust. As a result of her actions, Messer has been charged with violating the civil rights of a person in custody. This charge demonstrates the severity of her actions and the violation of the teenager's rights, as they were under her care. If found guilty, Messer could face serious legal consequences, including imprisonment and a permanent criminal record. The repercussions of Messer's actions extend beyond the legal realm. She has already faced professional consequences, having been fired from her job as a law enforcement agent. This serves as a clear indication that her actions were not only morally wrong, but also unacceptable within the confines of her profession. The thorough investigation into Messer's actions has shed light on a disturbing breach of trust and abuse of power. The scandal surrounding Tori Landmesser, a prison guard who engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a teenager, has had a profound impact on the community. When news of the scandal broke, the community was left in disbelief. Many were shocked and appalled that someone in a position of authority could engage in such reprehensible behavior. The betrayal of trust was felt deeply, and the community's reaction has been mixed. While some are outraged by the betrayal of trust and demand justice for the victim, others are shocked and saddened by the actions of someone in a position of authority. They question how such behavior could go unnoticed for so long. The termination of Tori Landmesser as a prison guard serves as a clear message that her actions were not only morally wrong but also violated the code of conduct expected from those in her position. It is a small step towards justice for the victim, and a reminder that those who abuse their authority will face the consequences. This case serves as a chilling example of the abuse of power and the devastating impact it can have on the lives of those involved. In conclusion, the scandals surrounding Tori Landmesser and all other cases mentioned above, and their inappropriate relationship with a teenager, have had a profound impact on the community. The betrayal of trust and abuse of authority has left many shocked and appalled. It serves as a reminder that no one is above the law, regardless of their profession or position.